So continue off what I was saying earlier in my last video. It's always the mistake these politicians make when they shoot left. They shoot the grassroots in the foot. And it backfires. Because at the end of the day, what do you think propelled your wing of politics? What do you think propelled you to higher office? That grassroots progressive left. Never forget where your politics were built, okay? If you only focus on the corporate elite, you're going to fail because the mood is not there anymore. People are ready for change. And when you shoot the true messenger for the fight, you're effectively destroy your own campaign. That's just reality. Because institutional support, media support, social media support, along with the grassroots and the political energy is what propels you to that victory. Okay? If you don't have those things, you're not going to win. And if you go after those sources or avoid talking to them or feel like you don't have to answer to them for anything and you should just get owed their support, you're going to fail because that's not how it works. And the thing is, I know politics can be messy, ugly, dirty, and a lot of people are competing for 1 or 2 seats at a time. You see a lot of people running. And the one thing you never want to do, though, is turn against your own grassroots movement or support. Because it's always going to foil your campaign at the end of the day. Because if you try to appease the elite sources, they're not going to stand by you either, because you're not enough of a sellout to beat their agenda. So at the end of the day, if you go after the left, you effectively foiled your own support. That's just reality. So what happens is they all occupy a lane. Well, if the moderates already got the support by the institutions, they got the support by the media, they got their support by the establishment, they got their support by the corporate donors. They're not going to pivot to the center. They're not going to suddenly come in and support the center-left progressive. They're going to support the corporate Democrat, because that's what they do. So you have to assess the field on who's running and see the validity and the strength of the candidates running. Now, if you legitimately feel like the field is not a good field of candidates to run, then it would make sense for you to occupy that lane. But if you're in a situation where you see an actual solid candidate running who's got solid support by the grassroots, then you think you're going to run, and somehow you're going to cut into that support, and you think the best way to do that is if you feel like, basically, if you spend too much time politicking instead of fighting from the gut, you're going to foil. You're going to come off disingenuous to voters, and they're going to turn on you. They're going to vote for somebody else. So, that's just how politics work, especially the new age politics of today. So, I was talking about my 2020 redemption votes in the caucuses. At the end of the day, I probably should have voted for Bernie 5 times. But here's the thing. I wanted to be diverse in my support of candidates in 2020 because I had the option to do so. Because I thought every candidate had their strength in different areas. But we had a caucus multi-ranked choice voting system, which I wish we had that system for everything here, because I prefer ranked choice voting personally. I like that kind of style of voting. But I supported Bernie Sanders as my number 1 choice. Then it was Tulsi Gabbard, then Elizabeth Warren. I voted for Elizabeth Warren third because I was mad at her for going after Bernie like she did. That made me so angry, Now, if you ask me how I would have voted today, I would have not voted like that today. Not 6 years later. I've evolved even more in my politics from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So today, I definitely wouldn't have voted for Tulsi Gabbard. She would have never got my vote. Not in a million years. I regret ever supporting that woman. Ever elevating her on my social media. Ever. Matter of fact, I've redeemed this so many times. if you look at my past social media post. But I went on a bat defending her when everybody that was attacking her turned out to be right about her. You know? And again, I have this issue before. I mean, and sometimes I'm wrong. And you know what? I acknowledge I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I was wrong about some people. I was wrong about Tulsi Gabbard. I was wrong about a couple other candidates that ran as pretend left. I was wrong, and I'm wrong about Graham Plattner in Maine. It's just, I've been wrong. I'm not saying I'm right all the time. But I've casted votes for candidates in the past that I regretted today because I was wrong. I was misled like a lot of people, and that's why I say you have to be mindful of that reality too. You can't just be mad at people and shut them out of your life because you don't agree with them. And that's why I've learned that it's really about the persuasion campaign, because at the end of the day, we are not fully informed all the time. We don't always vote our self-interest even though we think we're doing so. Sometimes we vote out of anger, reaction. Sometimes we're just reactionary people. We vote our feelings in the moment, and then we realize that we might be wrong later on. So that's why I've never completely cast a judgment on people based on who they voted for, because I've done it. Even though I identify as the left, I voted for people that were less than stellar. I voted for people that were scandal-ridden. I defended people that were mired in scandal. You know, I've done it too. I voted for people, you know, that didn't appear to be who they are, that fooled me, you know. We're all guilty of it. We've done it because we've never been fully informed. I think, and I've said this before, people are just hungry for change. They're hungry for somebody they feel is going to meet the moment at the moment. That's just bottom line. Okay? So, you know, would I voted back then the way I vote today? Probably not. Like, we all change over time. You know, that was 6 years ago, so I couldn't tell you exactly how I would vote this time. I mean, Bernie was always my favorite out of everybody that ran. He just met the moment on the issues I cared about. Did I ever think he was going to win? No. I knew he wasn't going to win. But to me, it didn't matter. It was the principle that mattered. So, you know, he was never going to win. He didn't have the right image, the right backing, the right anything. Plus, the establishment could come out hard against him. He was just going to make a splash and be the blueprint of the new generation of people coming forward. And we will get those people, but it takes time. Movements take time. And that's just reality. But this is what I've often said is the reason why the progressive left, median leftist loses these primaries is because they can't find a camp to occupy in. And they don't have enough institutional support on either wing of the party. And that's just the reality they face. And sometimes they effectively become a spoiler candidate who splits votes. And they feel like the way to solve that is to attack left and attack the grassroots, which always backfires every time. I've seen this happen too many times. You know, it's a huge political mistake, and it's never a political mistake you should make, because you want to stay credible in politics. And you want to get that grassroots support if you run for another office. You know, because at the end of the day, that support's what's going to matter. Especially considering where the energy of politics is going right now. All right, y'all. And again, there's no political expediency behind moral clarity. Something's either right or wrong. And we need fighters to call it forth. Okay? This is not a time to play tic-tac-toe and put your foot in every camp. You got to stand for something. You just do, you know. And that's all I say in this video. But all I want to say is I love y'all. Goodbye. See ya.